My name is Ava. I'm 27 years old. The morning my husband sent me away, the marina looked too beautiful to be dangerous. That was the first lie. It was late spring in coastal Florida, bright and glossy and already hot before 10. The dock smelled like sunscreen, salt, diesel, and lemon peel dropped into somebody's iced drink. White boats knocked softly against polished slips. Gulls screamed overhead like they were laughing at somebody. Wealthy couples moved around in linen and boat shoes and mirrored sunglasses, all of them relaxed in that expensive, practiced way. I stood there with a soft canvas tote on my shoulder and a straw hat in my hand, wearing the white resort set Nolan had bought me 2 days earlier. He had folded it himself. That should have scared me more than it did. Nolan never folded anything. He left dry cleaning over chairs, receipts and cup holders, and socks inside out on the bedroom floor of our condo in Naples. But that week he had become careful in a way that almost read as tenderness. Almost. Too careful, too soft. Like a man rehearsing kindness because he needed witnesses to remember it later. He took my coffee before I could spill it, kissed my temple, smiled at me like we were one of those couples people envy from a distance. No stress this weekend, he said. No phones, no fights, just us. The words should have sounded loving. Instead, they landed like something laid over a hole. We had been married 4 years. The first two looked good in pictures. The last two only looked good from outside. Nolan owned a real estate development company that ran on polished surfaces. Clean shirts, holiday cards, charity events, men with donor smiles and soft handshakes, wives who knew when to laugh and when to go quiet. Image was the only religion he practiced with discipline. Still, I wanted to believe him that morning. That was my weakness then. Hope, dressed up as loyalty. A deckhand in a navy polo took our bags without giving us claim tags. I noticed that. I noticed the way he looked at Nolan, then at me, then away again, like something had risen to the back of his throat and died there. The yacht wasn't ours. It belonged to one of Nolan's clients or investors or golf course friends. There was always a man like that orbiting him. Men with expensive watches, white teeth, too much cologne, and wives who wore linen and looked professionally calm. This boat had pale teak floors, chrome railings, a shaded lounge, no cold towels rolled on a silver tray, and crew who smiled without ever relaxing their faces. It also had no itinerary, no little welcome speech, no cheerful, "we'll be back by sunset," no brochure, no map, no return time, just citrus water, soft voices. Nolan's hand pressed lightly at the center of my back, guiding me forward. He had packed for me. That part didn't sit right either. When I reached for my phone charger in my tote, it wasn't there. My small card wallet wasn't there either. I checked again, then a third time, and Nolan touched my shoulder and smiled like I was a child asking where my shoes had gone. "I put everything in the sweet bag," he said. "Relax." There was no sweet bag in sight, only my tote, his garment duffel, a hard case with his initials. The boat pulled away from the dock with a low and steady growl under my feet. Water opened behind us in a bright white churn. The marina started shrinking into polished buildings, little flags, and glossy parked cars. A woman on the next slip, wearing oversized sunglasses and holding a Starbucks cup, threw her head back laughing at something her husband said. For one stupid second, I wished I was her. Simple, unaware, decorative. I sat beside Nolan on the upper deck while the heat gathered on my bare shoulders. He kept touching me, my knee, the back of my neck, my hand, my shoulder. Affection performed at full volume. He was always gentlest when he was hiding something. By the second hour, the details had started stacking up in a way I could no longer ignore. No other passengers ever boarded after us. Nobody talked about going back. But one crew member whispered to another near the stern, and both glanced at me. My phone dropped to 1 bar, then none. When I asked where we were headed, Nolan smiled without really looking at me. "You'll like it." That isn't an answer. His jaw tightened. Why do you always have to press? There it was, the blade under the velvet. I turned toward the water and tried to make my breathing even. We had done this dance before. Warmth, then correction, then blame, then somehow my apology ending up where his should have been. Marriage to Nolan felt like living in a beautiful house with rot under the floorboards. Everything smooth enough to hide the damage. An hour later, the boat slowed beside a private dock attached to a low white property, hidden behind sea grapes and palms. It wasn't a resort, it wasn't a lunch stop. There were no guests, no music, no servers with menus, no smiling staff waiting with drinks, just a black SUV in the shade, and a woman in a coral dress standing near the dock post. She wore oversized sunglasses and crossed one ankle over the other like she belonged there. Something in me went cold so fast it almost felt clean. Nolan stood. I need to handle something quick, he said. Stay on board. I'll be back. Handle what? A client issue. 40 minutes. Then he leaned down and kissed my forehead. Not a husband's kiss. A goodbye kiss. The kind you give a sleeping child when you don't want them waking up before you're gone. I caught his wrist before he could turn away. Nolan. He looked down at my hand like it offended him. What is this? He pried my fingers off with a calmness that felt worse than anger. This is for the best, Ava. For 1 second, I honestly did not understand the sentence. Not the meaning, the structure. For the best of what? For who? Then he stepped down onto the dock, handed his duffel to the woman in coral, and walked away. He didn't look back. Not once. I stood so fast the chair scraped hard against the deck. One of the crew moved between me and the gangway before I could get there. Not rough, not aggressive, professional. He said 40 minutes. The deckhand swallowed. Ma'am, please sit down. No, move. We've been instructed to continue north. I just stared at him. The dock was already drifting away. Nolan was walking beside the woman in coral toward the SUV, his shoulders easy, his pace unhurried, like he was leaving a lunch meeting. The engine rose beneath my feet. Sun flashed on the black roof of the SUV as it pulled out behind the trees. That was the moment the trip stopped being a bad marriage and became a disappearance. I did not scream. I wish I had. I wish I could tell you I did something cinematic, threw a glass, demanded the radio, fought like hell. But shock is stupid. Shock is standing there with your tote still on your shoulder, waiting for reality to correct itself. It didn't. Where are you taking me? No one answered right away. Then the older woman who had been serving towels stepped closer. Her name tag said Celia. Her face had that worn, tired kindness some women get after seeing too much of other people's damage. Bimini, she said. I blinked at her. The Bahamas? She nodded once. The water around us was still glittering like an advertisement. I don't have my passport. That got a real look. Not the crew smile, not the service face, a real one. Celia and the deckhand glanced at each other. Somewhere below, the captain muttered something sharp and low. Celia lowered her voice. Your husband provided documents. For a second, my knees almost gave out. Nolan had packed for me. Nolan had my wallet. Nolan had arranged the paperwork. Nolan had sent me out on a boat with no charger, no money in my hand, no return plan, and a story already built before I knew I was inside it. There are betrayals that cut, and there are betrayals that reorganize your whole memory. Down on the lower deck, I searched every bag in reach until someone finally brought out the sweet bag Nolan had mentioned. It held 3 dresses I had not chosen: sandals, makeup, 1 toothbrush, and a bottle of anxiety medication from an old prescription I had stopped taking months before, and a folded envelope with my name on it. Inside was $600 in cash and a typed note. Take the time you need. You said you needed space. Please do not contact me until you are stable. I've already spoken to the necessary people. Nolan. My hands shook so hard the paper rattled. There are sentences written to communicate, and there are sentences written to pre-build blame. You said you needed space, until you are stable, necessary people. I looked again at the pill bottle. It wasn't current, it wasn't full. But that didn't matter. It only needed to exist next to the note, a prop, a package, a version of me. I need a phone, I said. The captain finally came up from below. Square jaw, mirrored sunglasses. He had the expression of a man who had decided his job ended where morality got inconvenient. "There's limited service," he said. "You can make a call once we dock." "This is kidnapping." "No, ma'am. We have signed travel authorization and identification." "From who?" "From your spouse." Spouse? That word nearly made me laugh. By the time we reached Bimini, the sun had dropped lower and the heat had gone thick and sticky. The marina there was smaller and louder and rougher around the edges than the polished place we had left. Fishing boats, charter signs, fuel, wet rope, fry oil drifting from a nearby shack. Men in faded shirts lifting coolers into pickup beds. I stepped off that boat with my tote, my envelope, and legs that didn't feel like mine. The captain handed me a printed hotel reservation, a waterfront boutique place. Set 2 nights prepaid, 1 room. Nolan had thought of everything, not survival, containment. I stood there at the dock office trying to decide whether I should cry or throw up when a local woman behind the counter took one look at me and kicked a plastic chair toward me with her foot. "Sit before you fall." I sat. That was how I met Marlene. She had silver curls at her temples, reading glasses hanging on a beaded cord, and the kind of voice that made you feel foolish for lying in it. At first I told her as little as I could. Husband left, no passport in hand, need a phone, need help. The more I spoke, the more ashamed I got, which is one of the ugliest parts of being wronged. Someone harms you. Then shame walks in asking why you stood there and let it happen. Marlene slid a landline toward me and set down a legal pad. Start with one person," she said, "who loves you more than your husband loves appearances." I wrote my sister's number from memory. The first call failed, the second went through. Emma answered on the 4th ring from a DMV line in Fort Myers, already irritated because she thought I was Nolan calling again from an unknown number. "What now?" "It's me." Silence. Then a sharp inhale. "Ava, where are you?" I looked out through the office window at the water, at boats rocking in late light, at men hosing down decks like the world was still normal. That's a long story. Emma drove 2 hours that night just to sit in our mother's kitchen and start making calls. U.S. Customs, the marina in Naples, Nolan, me again. And a friend of mine named Tasha who worked around the county court system and knew exactly what tone to use when bureaucracy tried to shrug. Meanwhile, Marlene helped me call the U.S. Embassy line, and a sleepy front desk clerk at the hotel found me a charger that only worked if I bent the cord near the plug and held it in place with a coaster. Around 10:30, my phone lit up. 37 notifications hit all at once. Most were from Nolan. I opened the first text. "Please stop creating a scene. You asked for time away. I am trying to protect you. Emma needs to stay out of this. Do not embarrass yourself by making false claims." There was also an email from our bank. Joint account access changed. Another from our condo HOA portal. Resident credentials updated. There's then one from an attorney's office I recognized from Nolan's firm events, confirming receipt of emergency spousal wellness documentation. I read that line 3 times. Emergency spousal wellness documentation. He had filed something while I was still on the boat. A person can be left in the middle of blue water and still lose her home faster than she reaches shore. That first night in the hotel, I slept in a chair with the lamp on and the deadbolt checked 4 times. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the engine, saw the private dock, saw that forehead kiss. Some gestures should count as evidence. By morning, I had a list. Get home. Freeze what I could. Find out what he filed. Do not warn him. Pain can shatter you. Or it can hand you instructions. Emma and Tasha worked from Florida while I worked from the island. Tasha found a filing in Lee County through a clerk's office contact because Nolan had made one stupid mistake and routed part of the paperwork through his company's admin address. Emergency petition for spousal protective separation and temporary financial control. He claimed I was suffering from escalating emotional instability, had expressed a desire to vanish, and had voluntarily chosen temporary retreat care outside the continental United States. Retreat care. He sent me away on a boat and called it care. There was also a notarized statement from a physician assistant at one of Nolan's concierge clinics. Not a diagnosis, nothing that clean, just concerning behavioral observations reported by spouse. The notary stamp was dated the day before the trip. He had built the paperwork before the doc. I stared at the PDF on my phone until the words started to blur. A woman can survive a lot. What breaks her is often the neatness. Marlene found me a ferry contact who could help get me to Miami once I had temporary travel verification. The embassy line started moving faster the moment Emma began using words like coercion and fraudulent transport. By the second afternoon, I was on a cramped vessel full of sunburned tourists, one screaming toddler, a man eating chips from a loud foil bag, and my entire life in a canvas tote at my feet. I had never been so tired. I had also never been so awake. Emma met me in Miami wearing leggings, flip-flops, and an old college sweatshirt. She got out of the car, crossed the parking garage fast, and put both hands on my face like she was checking I was real. "Oh, you look awful." "Thank you." "I'm serious." "I know." Then I started crying right there between concrete pillars while traffic echoed overhead and somebody's reggaeton shook the next row of cars. Not graceful, not cinematic, just human. Emma took me to her apartment in Estero instead of Naples because Nolan would expect me to run home. There was no home. Not for me. By then, he had changed the condo locks, canceled my credit card, and sent a little sympathy performance out into the world. His mother, his law partner, 2 couple friends, 1 church acquaintance, all of them got some version of the same story. Ava needed space. Ava was overwhelmed. Ava had chosen time away for treatment. Please respect her privacy. He even posted a line to his Instagram story over a photograph of open water. And sometimes loving someone means letting them go heal. A sentence built for cowards, and for people who always confuse softness with truth. Tasha got screenshots before he deleted it. Emma wanted me to confront him immediately. She wanted volume, a driveway scene, public shaking, broken glass, his imported coffee table dying a deserved death. But survival had already started teaching me a colder language. "No," I said. "He stranded you on a boat." "I know." "Then what are we doing?" Letting him keep talking. That week I learned how much damage can be hidden inside paperwork and tone. His attorney filed for exclusive temporary access to certain shared funds to preserve assets during spouse's unstable absence. Nolan had already moved money from our joint savings to a business holding account 3 weeks earlier. He had also tried to change beneficiary discussions on a small investment account my Aunt Carol had helped me start before she died. He couldn't complete that without me. He tried anyway. My aunt's inheritance wasn't huge. It wasn't the kind of money people kill for. But it was enough to matter. Nolan had always talked about it like future building capital. I heard it differently now. Motive makes old conversations glow in the dark. He didn't want distance. He wanted removal. A cleaner path, cleaner money, cleaner image. And the woman in coral. Her name turned out to be Sienna Vale, 32, event consultant, recently collaborating with Nolan's firm on a luxury waterfront launch in Sarasota. Tasha found the photos. Not posted by them, posted by other people who didn't realize what they had caught in the background. And a hand low on a back, matching sunglasses reflected in a restaurant window. A 4th of July barbecue Nolan told me was a zoning weekend in Tampa. Sienna beside him on a dock, cropped at the shoulder, wearing the same coral dress from the private stop. The world doesn't reveal itself all at once. It leaks, one tagged face at a time, one receipt at a time, one lie with flattering light. I stayed with Emma for 11 days. We shopped at Publix for groceries and Walmart for emergency shampoo because my tote had become my entire life. I borrowed her oversized t-shirts. I stood in her tiny kitchen holding that old pill bottle and Nolan's typed note and wondering how long a man has to stop loving you before he starts rehearsing your disappearance. Emma stopped asking the soft questions after day 3. Then she started asking the useful ones. Who on the boat looked uncomfortable? A woman named Celia, the deckhand too. Can we reach them? Maybe Marlene can. Marlene could. 2 days later, she emailed me a photo she had quietly taken when the yacht docked in Bimini. Timestamp visible. Boat name visible. My face visible in profile near the gangway, turned toward shore while Nolan walked away with his duffel. One image. That was all. Enough to split his story down the middle. Then came the bigger break. Celia contacted me from a new email account. No greeting, no small talk. Just this. I knew it was wrong. If you are taking legal action, I may be willing to speak. He told Captain you were not to be allowed off at the private dock. He said if you cried, it would support the file. I read that last line 3 times. If you cried, it would support the file. Cruelty loves documentation. Later, Celia told my attorney more. Nolan had boarded early with the captain and handed over a packet. He referred to me as fragile. Said I was in one of my episodes. Said the staff should avoid giving me unrestricted phone access before Bimini, because it would only escalate her. He had pre-interpreted my fear. He had staged my reaction as evidence. That was when my grief changed shape. Up to that point, I had still been mourning the marriage. After that, I began to study the enemy. I hired a divorce attorney in Naples named Deborah Klein. Controlled voice, sensible flats, silver hair that never moved. She read the filings, the texts, the bank notices, Marlene's photo, and Celia's email, then took off her reading glasses and leaned back in her chair. But he overplayed? Is that good for me? It's catastrophic for him, she said, if we move correctly. Some sentences return circulation to your hands. Deborah filed responses, motions to block transfers, a demand for preservation of all trip-related communications. Then she brought in a private investigator to look at the concierge clinic, the marina manifests, the notary timing, and Sienna's overlap with Nolan's business. The investigator found a reservation trail that turned my stomach. 3 weeks before the trip, Nolan had booked a long-term furnished rental in Sarasota, under an LLC tied to his firm. Sienna was listed as guest contact. Utilities were already scheduled. A designer invoice mentioned fresh primary suite styling for couple occupancy. Couple occupancy. He had staged the next house before removing the last wife. There was another thing. Small. Mean. So mean, it almost impressed me. He had used a reset path from my old laptop credentials to access my personal email backups while I was away. Deborah caught it through device logs. He wasn't just trying to erase me. He was still hunting for material. Trying to find one more thing to hold over my head if the first plan cracked. A life can look finished from outside and still be gathering force underneath. That summer in Florida was brutal. Wet heat, bleached light, afternoon storms that split open over parking lots and left steam rising off the asphalt. I moved from Emma's couch into a short-term apartment in Bonita Springs after Deborah got part of my money unfrozen. The place had beige carpet, sticky blinds, And a neighbor who stood on the stairwell landing every evening at 6, smoking and watching sports highlights on his phone. It wasn't beautiful, it was mine. I stood in that little apartment with keys in my hand and felt more dignity there than I had felt in my expensive condo for years. I started working again, too. Before Nolan, I had done freelance brand copy and event support. During the marriage, my labor had slowly disappeared into his business and gotten relabeled as partnership while almost nothing went in my name. Deborah put that pattern into words I could live inside. He benefited from your invisibility. So I made myself visible. I rebuilt my portfolio, picked up remote contract work, opened accounts he couldn't touch, changed every password, updated my social security protections, just put fraud alerts on anything that breathed, watched every inquiry like it could bite, and waited, quietly. He did what men like him always do when they still think there is an audience. He kept performing. At a charity gala in Naples in early fall, Nolan appeared with Sienna on his arm for the first time. Not officially, not openly, just visible enough. The kind of appearance meant to suggest nothing improper had happened if you were willing to ignore the calendar and had never met a liar. Tasha sent me the photos. Emma swore so hard her dog barked. I looked at them and felt almost nothing. That scared me for about 10 seconds. Then I understood. It wasn't numbness. It was distance. Once you see the machinery, the magic dies. The public turn came sooner than Nolan expected because his vanity accelerated it. While his firm had a waterfront redevelopment pitch in October at a private donor and investor event. Press adjacent, money adjacent. Exactly the kind of room where men like Nolan build themselves in real time. Deborah had originally wanted to wait for court. Then the investigator found something else. The private dock where Nolan left me was attached to a property tied to one of his client shell groups, and part of the donor circle funding the event was extremely sensitive to anything that smelled like fraud or coercion. Not because they were moral, because they were expensive. Reputation-minded people rarely discover ethics. They discover liability. Deborah adjusted the strategy. Not loud, smart. That was always the goal. I wore navy that night. Clean lines, hair pulled back, minimal jewelry. In no trembling softness he could reframe as instability. No ruined wife costume. Just a woman who had come back from the place he sent her. Emma came with me. Tasha too. Deborah was already inside. The venue sat near the water, all glass walls and floating candles and low music and chilled white wine. Men stood in tight little circles discussing vision and trust and shoreline opportunity like they'd invented the coast. Women in silk moved past trays of miniature crab cakes and tuna tartare and polite hypocrisy. Nolan stood near the center of the room with one hand around a tumbler. Sienna was beside him in pale green silk. For 1 second he looked straight at me and didn't understand what he was seeing. Then all the color drained out of his face. That gave me more satisfaction than rage ever could. He started toward me immediately. Ava? I held up one hand. Not yet. Sienna looked between us, confused first, then uneasy, then scared. Good. Let her learn him in public. That was more mercy than he ever gave me. Deborah stepped in with 2 process servers and a packet. No screaming, no spectacle, just paper. Mr. Bennett, she said, you've been served with amended filings, preservation demands, and notice of additional claims related to fraudulent coercive transport, asset concealment, and defamatory misrepresentation. He hissed through his teeth. What the hell are you doing? I looked at him. Coming back. A few people nearby suddenly became very interested in their drinks while listening with the commitment of bad actors. Nolan lowered his voice and tried the old intimate tone. Yeah, the one meant to shrink me and make everything sound like a woman's overreaction. You are making yourself look insane. You tried that already. Sienna's eyes flicked to his face. The donor host approached with a fixed smile that had already started to crack. Is there a problem here? Deborah answered before Nolan could. Only if your guest list includes men who transport their spouses under false pretenses and file fraudulent wellness claims to seize joint assets. That got attention. Real attention. Nolan laughed, and it was the wrong laugh. Too sharp, too fast. The laugh of a man trying to build control out of noise. This is a personal marital dispute. I took out my phone. Then why did you need a captain, a fake retreat narrative, a notary, changed accounts, and a woman waiting at a private dock? The room didn't go silent. It tightened. Different thing. I showed the host Marlene's photo first, time-stamped. Nolan leaving the boat while I remained on board. Then Celia's signed statement. Then the county filing. Then the bank notices. Then the Sarasota rental trail, layer by layer. Not a rant, an architecture. Nolan reached for my phone. Give me that. Don't touch me. His hand froze midair. People notice more when a polished man forgets how polished he's supposed to be. I turned the screen slightly, and Sienna saw the photo of herself in coral. Her face changed. Not guilt, recognition. She had known some things, not all things. Did he tell you I was unstable? I asked her. She said nothing. Did he tell you I left voluntarily? Her mouth parted. That was enough. The donor host stepped back, then returned with another investor. Then another. Nolan's law partner appeared across the room, saw the papers, saw the faces, and swore under his breath. Deborah started speaking in those quiet, expensive sentences people in tailored clothes fear more than yelling. Not about heartbreak, about filings, about exposure, about shell property overlap, about investor risk, about coercive conduct. That is how men like Nolan actually bleed, not when you call them monsters, when you threaten the clean floor under their shoes. He tried the private gaslight again. Lean in. Low voice. Contain the woman. Ava, stop. We can discuss this privately. I smiled at him for the first time in months. You tried private, remember? It had a dock. That line moved. I saw it travel from face to face. But a quote becomes dangerous when it fits in one breath. Then he grabbed my elbow. Not hard enough to bruise. Hard enough to tell the truth. Emma was on him instantly. Take your hand off her. He let go, stepped back, and that, I think, was the first true crack in his image. Not the papers, not the money, not even the affair. The hand. Because it matched the picture people had already started building in their heads. A man who stages control eventually forgets when the audience has changed. After that, things sped up. His firm suspended him pending review. The investor group removed him from the waterfront pitch. Sienna left the event alone. His mother called twice and texted me a paragraph about misunderstanding and stress, which I ignored. The physician assistant at the concierge clinic amended her stance once Deborah's office asked whether she stood by observations supported only by a spouse's narrative before transport records and witness testimony had surfaced. Funny how certainty shrinks under letterhead. In court, Nolan's filings started collapsing one by one. The judge did not like the phrase retreat care. That much was obvious. Deborah laid out the timeline cleanly. Trip, documents, changed accounts, lock changes, preserved texts, notary timing, rental overlap, witness statement, marina photo, device access attempts. Nolan's attorney tried to frame it as an imperfect husband responding badly to a distressed spouse. Then Celia testified by video. He instructed us not to let her disembark at the private stop, she said. He stated visible upset from her would support his file. Those were his words to the captain. That was enough. No theatrics needed. Just a calm woman telling the truth in plain language. The emergency control request was vacated. Sanctions were discussed. Asset restrictions tightened around Nolan instead of me. A forensic accounting review opened. The judge referred inconsistencies in parts of his affidavit for further examination. No, he did not go to prison. Life is rarely that tidy. But his world started failing at the joints. Deals stalled. A local magazine quietly removed him from a feature about men shaping the coast. The redevelopment board delayed anything connected to his firm. His law partner bought him out under terms ugly enough to travel. The condo sold in the divorce. I got my portion. Then more than Nolan ever expected me to force him to surrender. He had counted on confusion. He had mistaken confusion for weakness. There is a difference between being soft and being erasable. He learned that too late. Months later, right before Thanksgiving, I went back to that Naples marina alone. The weather had cooled just enough to make the air feel easier. Still Florida. Still warm, but lighter. Salt, boat fuel, holiday music leaking faintly from a dock bar. White string lights already wrapped around the marina office even though it was too early and tacky. I stood where I had stood that morning in white resort clothes and finally saw the scene clearly. Not romance ruined. A setup survived. Marlene was there by coincidence or fate. She hugged me once, brisk and tight, then stepped back and looked at me. "Oh, you look like somebody who's been sleeping." "Sometimes. Better than before. Much." We bought bad coffee from a kiosk and stood looking out at the slips. The coffee was thin and too sweet. I drank it anyway because I liked paying for my own bad decisions again. After a minute, I asked her the thing I had been carrying for months. "Did you know right away?" She looked toward the water. "I knew something was wrong," she said. "Women know the difference between a wife on a trip and a wife being managed." Managed. That word stayed with me. So much of what Nolan had done lived under words like that. Managed, stabilized, protected, supported, provided for. Soft labels for hard cages. When people ask what hurt most, they expect me to say the affair. Or the money. It wasn't either of those, it was the planning. Got the neatness of it, the forethought, the fact that he looked at my life, my voice, my body, my fear, and decided all of it could be rearranged into a cleaner story. And still failed. Sometimes survival is dramatic. Sometimes it is just refusing the version of you someone else prepared. By Christmas, I had a new place in Fort Myers with morning light in the kitchen and a second-hand dining table I bought myself. Emma helped me carry boxes up 2 flights of stairs while cursing every step. We ate Chinese takeout on the floor because I hadn't unpacked plates. A little artificial tree blinked in the corner beside unopened mail and a roll of packing tape. It was imperfect. It was peaceful. I used to think those two things couldn't exist together. In January, I got the final divorce order. I sat in my car outside the courthouse, with the stamped copy in my lap, and watched people cross the parking lot carrying folders, diaper bags, iced coffees. One woman fixing lipstick in her side mirror before walking back inside. One man arguing through a Bluetooth headset like his life had never once stopped to make room for anyone else's ending. Life does not pause to honor your damage. Maybe that's mercy. I called Emma. "Well?" "Done." She went quiet for one beat. Then, "Good. Want tacos?" I laughed so hard I had to wipe my face. Some truths only arrive after the wreck. The first is this. The people who try hardest to bury you are often the ones who hand you the map. The second is this. Being abandoned is terrible. Seeing clearly is priceless. And the last one was the hardest. He thought distance would delete me. It only gave me room to return correctly. Later, Tasha told me Nolan had relocated to Sarasota for a while, then farther south, then into the kind of life nobody described with admiration. Sienna lasted less than a season. Apparently, a man who scripts one woman's instability eventually starts testing drafts on the next one. That stopped being my business a long time ago. Once, nearly a year after the boat, Nolan emailed me from a new address. No threats, no apology either, just 6 words. I never meant for it to escalate. I stared at the sentence for a long time. Even then, no ownership. No, I planned it. No, I lied. No, I left you on that boat and built a story around your fear. Just escalate. As if events had grown wild by themselves, as if weather had done it. I deleted the email. Some endings don't need replies. Last week I took myself on a day cruise out of Sanibel. My ticket, my choice, my bag packed by my own hands, driver's license in my wallet, portable charger in my tote, cash in my pocket, window seat, sun on the water. Nothing glamorous, everything sacred. A little girl near the railing lost her sun hat to the wind and laughed. Her mother laughed too. A couple argued softly over sunscreen. An older man ate crackers from a zip bag and stared at the horizon like he had nowhere else on earth he needed to be. The engine rolled under our feet. The shoreline slipped away. For one brief second, my body remembered. Then it didn't. That is what healing felt like. Not some giant speech. Not triumph with music under it. Just the day the same blue water stopped looking like a trap. Nolan tried to write the ending for me. Fragile wife. The voluntary retreat. Unstable absence. A woman handled. A woman managed. A woman removed cleanly enough that nobody important would ask questions. But he made one mistake. He forgot I was still there. Still seeing, still recording, still capable of coming back with a better memory than his. That's the thing about people who mistake your softness for emptiness. They never understand what was inside you until it stands back up. I do not miss the condo. I do not miss the charity smiles, or the polished lies, or the careful corrections disguised as concern. I do not miss the version of marriage where every kindness arrived with strategy folded inside it. I miss the girl I was on that dock sometimes, the one still trying to believe. But even that has softened, because she got me here. She stepped onto that boat in good faith. And she trusted where trust was earned nowhere. She was wrong, but she was not weak. There's a difference. And if you have ever been handled, managed, softened into silence, packaged for somebody else's story, I want you to hear me clearly. The worst thing they do is not always the leaving. Sometimes it is the naming. The way they define your fear before you get to speak. The way they label your pain so other people can dismiss it faster. The way they build a version of you and hope you're too stunned to fight it. Fight it anyway. Quietly if you have to. Messily if you have to. Late if you have to. But fight it. Because sometimes the cleanest revenge is not destruction. It is accuracy. It is surviving long enough, steadily enough, clearly enough, that the lie collapses under its own paperwork. The water is still blue. The boats still leave the shore every day. Men still smile in public and build ugly things in private, but I leave with my own name now, my own bag, my own documents, my own money, my own return, and that matters more than closure ever could.